Welcome to Accelerated Velocity, the podcast that helps you move faster, smarter, and more strategically in the rapidly evolving world of AI. We'll break down the latest AI news and innovations and explore how they impact your marketing, sales, and business growth. We'll dive into practical use cases, unpack new tools, and cut through the noise so you and your team can adapt with confidence. I'm Grace Matthews, Director of Content at Inbound AV, a business development agency and HubSpot solutions partner dedicated to driving sustainable business growth. Each week, I'll be here with Peter Malik, our CEO and founder. Join us as we make sense of what's changing and what to do about it. Hello, welcome to episode 6 of Accelerated Velocity. How are you doing today, Peter?
I am doing great. I'm having a hallucination over here.
Perfect segue. Thank you, Peter. So today we're going to be looking at what everybody seems to be talking about, which is the rise in AI hallucinations. And I do have a personal story to share on that. So that's coming up.
Now, we got a couple of really interesting ones we want to share with you. And one has to do with a transcript that Grace made of the show, my last episode of the show, which was Grace and I talking just as we're talking now. And you want to start with that, Grace? You want to talk about that a little bit?
So I take the transcripts of our podcast episodes, I throw them into ChatGPT, I get timestamps for the show notes, I get a little bit of breakdown, overview of the show, everything like that. I always edit it and turn it into our own content, but it's nice to see kind of an overview of the information from that perspective. So I put in our last episode on SEO last week, asking ChatGPT for some timestamps and some other information. And I'm just going to read what I got back from ChatGPT because it's honestly hilarious and it's a great example of what's been happening recently. So I uploaded the episode transcript and I said, based on this transcript, please create all the same assets that I requested last time. Should know what I'm looking for. The first thing I get back is an episode summary titled From Door to Data Driven, Jake Savage on Scaling Sales and Human-Centered Growth. Who is Jake Savage? According to ChatGPT, he's a former Cutco door-to-door sales star turned sales trainer and strategist who Peter did not talk with on the show, but ChatGPT thinks that you did for some reason. And it just went on and on and on. And I asked it to try again a few different times, and the information actually got worse and farther from the information in the transcript every time. I tried different ways of inputting the transcript as well, thinking maybe there was an issue with the document. So I tried copy and pasting, all of that. Eventually, we ended up with a description of the show, which is no longer anywhere near what we were talking about. And ChatGPT is explaining on the Accelerated Velocity podcast with Jake Savage and Gregory Shepard, who speaks about his life experiences and career path. So I don't know where that came from. Completely out of left field. And I ended up just starting over. I think I switched to a different LLM at this point, and then I went back the next day, started a new chat, and everything seemed fine. But, I just thought that this is a crazy example of how you can be relying on a tool like this for a very consistent part of your day-to-day processes, and all of a sudden that's thrown out the window. Have you had any experiences like this recently, Peter?
No, I really haven't. It's kind of shocking to me. And so I see you entered what the hell, and ChatGPT actually owned the fact that they were crazy. Yeah.
They owned the fact that they were crazy, but they still were unable to correct themselves.
That's wild.
So
That's so wild.
they're like, I totally understand that's a fair reaction, but then they're not giving me the correct information. And this, by the way, happened at the end of last week, and everybody's been talking this week about the rise in hallucinations across LLMs, ChatGPT and DeepSeek most prominently. And I'm just going to throw out a quick statistic that I found from an article on Forbes, which said that through a variety of different QA processes in the past couple weeks, ChatGPT's latest model has been showing a 30 to 50% hallucination rate on its responses, depending on the query type. So certain queries it's struggling with a little bit more than others.
It's so wild. And, I mean, it's interesting that, this transcript, that's not gonna change anybody's life. But if you hallucinate a proposal for your client and you promise them, let's say $50,000 worth of services for $5,000, and that gets signed, that is gonna change somebody's life. It's gonna change yours. And so consequently, I think it's really important right now, especially, I think that goes without saying, that you really do full due diligence and read everything that could be impactful as far as with your clients, whoever. I mean, we've probably all heard about the legal brief that was written by ChatGPT, essentially, that was put in front of the judge, and the judge was like, I think, basically reported the lawyers into some sort of censure because it was obviously not only generated by an LLM, but also was crap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are real serious implications when you're not using these tools discerningly. And I'll also mention, I mean, this comes right on the back of last week when ChatGPT had to roll back to a previous version of 4.0 because the updates that they had pushed to 4.0, people were finding that, I mean, the word that everybody was using is literally sycophantic. The responses from ChatGPT were just getting so saccharine and overly encouraging. I saw one tweet that somebody had asked ChatGPT, should I invest $30,000 in this business idea that I have? And the idea was literally selling poop on a stick. And ChatGPT was like, yes, that's the best idea you've ever come up with. And that would be totally worth the investment.
That's so great. If it wasn't true.
Absolutely, and on a more subtle caliber, I mean, you have to be they did roll back to the previous version, so most of those issues should be resolved, but we're seeing that a lot of LLMs are inherently trained to please, and even trained to, like, rewrite accurate information when a user might doubt the accuracy of that information to align with what the user wants to hear. To that point, it's not a great idea to be relying on ChatGPT for those pivotal business decisions, even if you're selling something with a lot more value than my example.
So, I mean, this is particularly interesting information for me because I have been pretty much automating a bullet pointed list of a transcript from a business meeting that could have taken an hour. And I will output the transcript from our note taker and then put it into an LLM and organize it in a particular way. And really, I'll skim it, but I'm not reading it through because I'm not reading it through. And that's definitely going to shift for me, at least for the short term.
Absolutely. And I just also wanted to mention before we moved on a couple of theories on why this is happening in terms of the hallucinations. The first thought is that newer models are trained to find an answer in steps. And the more steps that there are, even though that can be more efficient, the more chances there are to go wrong. The second theory, and I don't think that these are mutually exclusive, is that models are trained to always give an answer. So they're more likely to make stuff up when there's actually no information for them to work with. Just, rather than just stating that they don't know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of disturbing to me on one level that you inputted our transcript and they couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a case where the information is right there. So I don't know what went wrong with that. And I know that people have been seeing weird stuff with research tasks and web searches and stuff like that. So it's happening in a variety of different ways as well, which I find particularly interesting because we can't necessarily see what's going on behind the scenes.
Totally. My question would also be, I mean, obviously in business, large language models are being used for just an incredible variety of stuff. And in marketing, it's used very often for data enhancement is to try to get somebody's email address or their job title or their job history or information about their company. And I haven't seen any hallucinations in that department, but if they start to happen, that's pretty disturbing. I mean, at the end of the day, if Elon Musk is identified as a delivery manager for DoorDash, nobody's really going to get hurt. But as far as like if it's happening 30% of the time where there are hallucinations, you got data that is worthless.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, that for different tasks, the stakes are going to be different. And also to maybe consider what model or AI tool is going to be serving you best for a particular activity. Peter, have you tried out the Chatbot Arena website?
I have.
That's an interesting one. So, for our viewers who might not be familiar, the Chatbot Arena basically pulls from, I believe, over 100 different LLMs. And what you do is you put in a prompt and you can get back responses to the same prompt from a number of different LLMs compared side by side. And before you can see which response is from which one, you select what you consider to be the best answer. So that's a good way to determine which models might be best suited to specific tasks. There's also a leaderboard page on the Chatbot Arena website where you can see on basically a daily basis which models are performing the highest for different tasks according to voters. So I'll make sure to put a link to that down in the show notes. And I believe there's even a hallucination leaderboard as well, which I haven't played around with as much.
Well, I will say that it's been just another wild week in AI announcementville, and so wild that I'm going to take the position that it's all hallucination this week, and we can get back to something else next week.
Yes, we're actually in a simulation.
I've heard of that somewhere before.
Yeah, right.
So, Grace, one of the things that I've been giving a lot of thought to is the actual speed to build an agent or an agentic workflow. And, you see YouTube videos constantly that are like 13 minutes to, $1 million agent. And once you dig into them, you're going to find out it didn't take 13 minutes. It took 13 minutes to describe what you have to do. It didn't take 13 minutes to build that agent. But nevertheless, there are people who are shipping multiple agents very, very quickly. And there are people who are spending weeks and even months to build to a similar outcome. So I'd be really interested in digging into this in our next podcast as to how to figure out how do you assess how much time something should take? Because a lot of AI development is kind of a black box right now. I think it would be fair to say that there are a lot of experts, some of them on YouTube, who are earning a lot of money from companies who are looking for solutions, and they really don't have the skills to deliver. We saw craziness. I don't know if it's one-to-one craziness, but similar craziness in the NFT craze, where Bored Apes were going for like 8 figures. And so I think there's a little bit of that in the AI sphere, and there's just so much demand for skilled AI developers, people skilled in building agents, that you gotta be careful. So, I mean, in essence, you gotta take the attitude of ChatGPT hallucinating. When you're looking for services in the AI world right now, you really got to, again, I've said this 10 times in the podcast, do your due diligence. Make sure you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are a HubSpot solutions partner, so a lot of our perspective comes from that. But I will say, I think that also speaks to if there are specific tasks that you are using AI for, or you see the value in a particular AI agent or something like that. I think it's wise to explore platforms like HubSpot that offer a variety of fairly advanced AI agents that also have built-in customer support and troubleshooting that's there for you. Because the reality is that does what it wants sometimes, and AI is still a lot of these tools are still developing and rapidly gaining capabilities.
Yeah, and I think just as important is the HubSpot app ecosystem, of which we are a part. And because there are a lot of very creative solutions being shipped within the app ecosystem that solve problems that maybe don't rise to a HubSpot feature ad because it's specific to a particular vertical or a specific problem. But there's a lot of solutions out there that are really worth looking into.
Yeah, I totally agree. And custom integration as well, which just expands those opportunities even further. And with that, Peter, I think we are coming up on time if you would like to lead us out.
There is at that. So, I want to remind you to give us a review. Give us a 5-star review if you can. If you can't, give us a review anyway. And visit us at inboundav.com and check out what we're up to.
Absolutely. And make sure to check out the show notes. I promise they won't be hallucinated, they will be accurate. And subscribe to our newsletter, which will be linked there. And thanks for listening.